Knox County students. I'm Miss Jacobson and I teach at Austin East High School. Welcome to KCS at Home Summer Edition. Today's lesson is based on the Task 2 for English 1. If you don't have that assignment, it can be found by visiting the KCS website at knoxschools.org. Please be sure to complete the entire week's task before continuing this video. As I said, if you haven't completed the KCS at Home Summer Edition Task number 2 for English 1, stop and return to this video once you have finished your work so we can go over it together. Today, we are going to be talking about expository writing, cause and effect. Today, I'm going to be using a software called Kami. It's a Chrome extension. You can add it onto your web browser, and you can upload a PDF version of this assignment into Google Drive, and then you can edit it with Kami. Here are some of your learning targets today. We are going to be writing an informative, explanatory essay. So that just means that you're going to be writing a text that gives information and explains a topic. We'll be doing a lot more with planning, revising, editing, and making sure that your essay is in top-notch condition. All right, so the purpose of an expository essay is for the writer to communicate ideas and information about a topic to specific audiences for specific purposes. Expository essays are often written to define or describe a subject, to provide directions for how to do something, to compare subjects by exploring how they are similar and different, and in addition to explore the relationship between causes and effects. So today we're going to be writing a cause and effect essay. Let's talk about what cause and effect is. So I would say the cause is the initial event that happens that creates a ripple effect or creates other events after. So the effect would be then the thing that is created or the thing that has happened as a result of something else happening. My example would be, let's say that I exercise a lot, that I go lift a bunch of weights or I run, I do some kind of workout. Let's say I do that for a whole hour. So that workout is going to cause me to be tired and to be hungry. So the effect is that I'm hungry and tired. I'm going to have to eat more food. I'm going to have to rest a lot more to recover. So what we're going to do now is we're going to read a student sample essay. And I've already kind of gone through and annotated, so we'll look at some of that together. We're going to read this essay. Again, this is a student sample essay. So we're going to look at this as an example of how to write a cause and effect essay. While we read, we're going to look for the writer's purpose or main idea, and we're also going to make inferences about the writer's intended audience. As you read, we are going to be looking for the following types of evidence. There may be a relevant fact that is shared, or a definition of a term. There also could be specific details that are provided, quotations from other sources. There could be other information or examples. The Desired Look, Nothing But Bones by Rebecca Patton. It seems like every little girl dreams of becoming a model. They want to be thin and pretty like the models they see on television and in magazines. Often the desire becomes an obsession and a young girl sees thinness as being a needed characteristic. For most girls, the teenage years are spent trying to acquire this look. Females are trying diets and are exercising like it is a competition to see who can lose the most weight the quickest. The obsession of many young girls over their appearance or weight has led to a growing number of people who have developed an eating disorder to try to deal with their lack of self-esteem or other related problems. So I highlighted this section right here because I believe that this really defines the author's purpose for writing, their reason why they want to write this text. It's also the thesis statement. Eating disorders are a serious health problem. The website Personal Counseling and Resources says that eating disorders are characterized by a focus on body shape, weight, fat, food, and perfectionism, and by feelings of powerlessness and low self-esteem. So I highlighted this section because this is not only a quotation, but it also is a definition of eating disorders, which helps the author to explain to the audience what eating disorders are. Three of the most common eating disorders are anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating or compulsive eating disorder. According to the site Anorexia Nervosa and Related Eating Disorders, a person with anorexia refuses to maintain normal body weight for age and height, and weighs 85% or less than what is expected for age and height. So I highlighted this because, again, this is a quotation, but it's also a definition. A person diagnosed with bulimia has several ways of getting rid of the calories, such as binge eating, vomiting, laxative misuse, exercising, or fasting. The person might have a normal weight for their age and height unless anorexia is present. The signs of a compulsive eater include eating meals frequently, rapidly, and secretly. This person might also snack and nibble all day long. The compulsive eater tends to have a history of diet failures and may be depressed or obese. There are many reasons that contribute to the cause of eating disorder. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. It seems as if the writer is shifting from describing the condition, which would be the effect. So they talked about their effect first. And now they're transitioning to the cause. What has caused the eating disorder? They're going to talk about the cause for the rest of the essay. One of the main reasons seems to be obsession over every little pound a person is wearing. Sometimes low self-esteem or depression from any number of causes can usher in the eating disorder. Other times, compulsive exercising can help shed the pounds, but leave the exerciser unhealthy looking. So this is another cause, and the one in pink. There are other possible causes to this widely known health problem. The media bestows a great deal of beauty and thinness on television and magazines that are viewed by many people daily. Everyone has the desire to look like the actors and actresses do, but in reality, it will just not happen for most of us. So here they cite the media as a cause. Abuse, whether it be physical, emotional, or sexual, can also contribute to the development of an eating disorder. Such abuse to victims can leave them with a lack of trust and low self-esteem. An unfavorable relationship a person has with others is also a contributing factor to disordered eating habits. The world is so competitive that any mention from parents, siblings, peers, significant others, or coworkers about a person's weight or appearance can lead to the onset of an eating disorder. Abuse here, a close loved one making negative comments about weight, those things can also lead to the onset of an eating disorder. Here, there really is no single reason that a person acquires an eating disorder. So this sentence, I highlighted this one because it kind of sums up their essay and highlights the fact that there are a lot of different causes of eating disorders. Many factors are considered when making a diagnosis for a person with this problem. Causes like the ones mentioned above play such an important role in eating disorders. It's really so important that in order to look like the supermodels, people are willing to give up food and starve themselves to death for a little satisfaction on the outside. The look of a person on the inside is what really matters. So for the purpose, when I thought about this, I thought the purpose is probably to inform the reader about what eating disorders are and to discuss some of the potential causes and inform the reader what some of the causes are. Who do you think the writer has in mind as the audience and why? Like, how do you know that? So for me, when I was reading through it, I think it is probably directed at people who are at risk of developing an eating disorder or who maybe already have an eating disorder and trying to figure out and understand that themselves, or perhaps for someone who has a loved one or a friend that is struggling with an eating disorder. Now is the time to take a little break. So you can push pause on the video because we're about to head into writing our essays. Welcome back. Now we're going to start writing an expository essay. Before we write our essay, we need to read the prompt. Here's the prompt. Write an essay analyzing the cause or causes and the effect or effects of a timely situation that is relevant to your school. For example, what happens when you are late to class? Don't meet a deadline. Study very hard for an exam. Be sure the essay presents effective introductions and concluding paragraphs, contains a clearly stated purpose or controlling idea, is logically organized with appropriate facts and details, includes no extraneous information or inconsistencies, accurately synthesizes ideas from several sources, uses a variety of rhetorical devices, uses a variety of sentence structures, uses a variety of transitions to link paragraphs. So the first thing that I see is that it is analyzing the cause and the effect. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing. We're going to be doing this with a timely situation that is relevant to your school. I decided to go with a different topic. So I thought about what are some things that my students talk about a lot at school that could be a cause and an effect, that has a cause and effect to it. So the thing that I came up with was the quality of cafeteria food. Now that I've selected my topic, the first thing I need to do is come up with a thesis statement. Remember that a thesis, we mentioned earlier, is a statement that identifies purpose for writing as well as the writer's opinion. As I read this example, we're going to look for the purpose and we're also going to look for the author's opinion. The growing number of students arriving late to school has led to a variety of consequences that the school administration has developed to discourage tardiness. Notice, though, that the thesis statement, it is specific. It lets us know what they're going to be talking about in this essay, not just getting to school late, but specifically the consequences the administration has come up with. And it also identifies the cause and the effect. Since we are writing a cause and effect essay, it's very important for your thesis statement to identify the cause and the effect. So the cause here in this one is that the students arriving late to school. That is what causes then the effect, which is the school administration choosing to have consequences for the tardiness, to try to discourage the tardiness. Okay, so then I practiced writing my own based off of this example here. So I have here my cause, low quality of cafeteria food in schools. Okay, so because this is causing something. And I said it has led to unforeseen effects on students. Sorry, I shouldn't say health. Next, we're going to actually start writing our essay in the form of a graphic organizer. So I'm going to use this chart, or I already have used it, to set out my main points for my essay. So some of the main points that I came up with that support my thesis statement are that low quality cafeteria food has led to dissatisfied students. So in this paragraph, I kind of want to explain the cause, establish the cause of the low quality of the food. It leads to dissatisfied students, but the dissatisfied students is in and of itself another cause that creates these following two effects. Students relying on unhealthy snacks to get them through the day, and poor nutrition affecting students' performance in school. So what I did then is I came over here and I did just a little bullet point list of some ideas that could support my supporting idea that's going to turn into a paragraph. So I thought about, well, why are students dissatisfied with the food? So I went through and found all these things, and I found an article that talked about it from New York Times. Most of these are just from personal knowledge and different examples. I came up with some other sources that I've seen my students use. And then down here, I found another study that was done by Brookings that showed information about students actually performing more poorly on standardized tests if they did not have as high quality of food. So I did have to do some research. So that's one thing you need to know, is that you should be doing research on your topic to find reliable sources from which you can pull quotes and ideas, paraphrases, and you must cite everything that you find. You cannot just take a quote out or take information out. If you got it from another source, you need to put where you got that source from. I'm sorry, where you got that information from. All right, so now that I kind of filled out this little graphic organizer outline, I'm going to use this information to help me start drafting my essay. The first step in my essay is to write my introduction. So a good introduction has a lead or a hook. So that's going to be something that really captures your reader's attention. It makes them want to keep reading, it makes them interested or excited to keep reading your essay, or maybe it's just sharing something relatable that they're like, yeah, I really connect with that. The next thing you need to provide is some context or background information about the topic so that your reader understands when you continue with the rest of your essay what you're even talking about. And then finally, you will put your thesis as the last sentence of your introduction paragraph. And that is going to, again, state your purpose and opinion for the rest of the paper. All right, let's look at my example introduction. So for my hook, what I provided was a few sentences that had the reader imagine that they were walking into the cafeteria to eat lunch and they smelled something disgusting. So that's a relatable experience for a lot of students. So I thought I would include that just to kind of get us all to a common ground. Then I provided these 3 sentences that talk a little bit about how cafeteria food has been criticized for years, but that the food has more serious effects on students than just students saying, oh, I just don't like it, or the flavor isn't good. There's more problems it creates than just not liking the taste of the food. Then I provided my thesis statement. Low quality cafeteria food in schools has led to unforeseen effects on students. All right, that's my introduction. When I'm done with my introduction, then I go on to my body paragraphs. So my body paragraphs need to have a topic sentence that establishes the topic or main idea for that paragraph. It's what everything's going to connect back to in that paragraph. So I need to have that one sentence that's specific enough that it's limited to only what's in that paragraph, but broad enough that it can encompass and include everything that I talk about in the paragraph. Then I need to have some transition words and phrases to connect my sentences together. It needs to have evidence, whether that's examples or quotes. It needs to have evidence that backs up that topic sentence and supports it. And then you need to provide some commentary about how that evidence is relevant or why it is important to this paragraph. All right, so let's look at my first body paragraph, which I have 3 of them. So we will look at each of them in turn. So for my first body paragraph, what I did is I actually took the sentence from my supporting ideas column and I turned each of these into a topic sentence on its own to start off each paragraph. So in this one, I just used the same sentence. I added a little bit more to it. And then I had to add a transition sentence to help the topic sentence and then my first piece of evidence not feel abrupt or too clunky. I had to make sure it flowed from one sentence to the next. So I added in this sentence, students, so it says low quality cafeteria food has led to dissatisfied students for years. Students report not liking the food for many reasons. And then I provide my first piece of evidence. They often complain about the food's overall poor quality, that it's cold, dry, old, and overly processed. So again, this evidence is not something from an article that I found. This is from my own experience of having conversations. It's more anecdotal. This is something that comes from my own thinking and my own life experience. This next piece of evidence, though, it comes from the New York Times article that I referenced. And the last name of the author is Murphy, so I made sure to include that. So this is not a quote, but the idea still came from this article. So I have to cite it, even though it's just a paraphrase. It's not necessarily a quote, but I still have to cite it. And then at the bottom of my essay, I'll have my works cited page so that the reader can go and reference and look at this article if they so choose. So I go on to add some more reasoning, and then in this last this last sentence, this is my concluding sentence. So it says, clearly the quality of the food has more of an effect on students than was originally thought. So this sentence, it goes back to my topic sentence, the main idea of the paragraph, that the food has an effect on students and it is not a positive effect. So, but this also leads into the next paragraph, because next I'm going to talk about how students, because they don't like the food, they turn to other sources of food that are not healthy for them. So, for my first sentence of this paragraph, I again used that same sentence from my graphic organizer over here, but I added this transitional phrase at the beginning. Because students often choose not to eat the less than appealing cafeteria food, this leads them to rely on other unhealthy snacks to get them through the school day. So this references how students choose not to eat the food from the cafeteria because they don't like it and it's not appealing to them. And so it's referencing the previous paragraph, but then transitioning to the topic in this paragraph that I'm going to be talking about, which is the unhealthy snack choices and where they get them from. So in this paragraph, I talk a lot about the different places that students get the unhealthy snacks, whether that's vending machines, fast food restaurants. If you want to pause the video, you can read through it and kind of read more about some of those different sources of snack food. One thing I want to draw attention to in this paragraph, though, is the use of transitions. I already mentioned this transitional phrase up here to start off the paragraph, but I want to mention some other transitional phrases that I chose to use. So this one right here, while fast food is delicious, it does not provide many of the necessary micronutrients that students need to stay healthy. So this sets up the contrast of why people would want to eat fast food and why students do turn to it, in contrast with why that is not actually the best decision to make, because it does not provide the nutrients that are needed. So with your transitions, you can do a lot of different things. So this transitions from this idea of how students are getting the food from fast food restaurants into my point that it is not necessarily the best choice for students. All right. You can also use words like often. I think I use it twice in this paragraph. This kind of shows like the frequency of something happening, so that can kind of strengthen your point while also transitioning into that sentence. All right. And then again, my concluding sentence: because the schools are not providing delicious and nutritious foods for students, this causes them to turn to unhealthy food options. So here it's kind of restating what I said in the whole paragraph. like you need to do with your concluding sentence. Concluding sentence. So this kind of just closes up this paragraph for you. All right, let's look at the third body paragraph real quick. The only thing I want to bring to your attention here is how the citations again. In this one, again, you can pause and you can read the whole paragraph if you would like. This paragraph talks mostly about how student performance is affected by the food they eat at school. So here I included a quote from the actual website. Here, you can see where I copied and pasted it from. But this website had a lot of information about a study that they conducted about food quality and how it affected students' scores on end-of-year tests. I provided here a paraphrase of some information about how it affects people who are accessing and using free or reduced lunch, and how it affects them even more than the general populace. So this is where I add a commentary about this evidence. So I said, this is strong evidence for those relying on the school system for food. The nutrition of that food really does make a difference. This study supports the conclusion that food leads to quality thinking and learning. So here I explain why it's so important that food affects achievement, and like why would that information support my point here about the cause and effect of food and how much that cause of the poor quality of food is affecting students. All right, let's go back here now. So far we have talked about our body paragraphs. I know that got a little bit long, but hopefully you saw some good examples of how to set up your body paragraphs, and you're able to go back and look at your paragraphs and make any adjustments that you need to make. All right, so now we're going to look at our conclusions. So if you can go to your conclusion section of your essay, I'm going to go to mine. So here's my conclusion paragraph. With your conclusion, you want to ask yourself the question, what did I say in my essay? And you want to restate that in 1 to 2 sentences. So this is kind of a summary of what I said in my essay. Students have suffered from poor cafeteria food, and it has affected both their health and their academics. That sums up everything it talked about in 1 sentence. Then I asked myself the next question, what does it mean? And interpreting. So I talk here about in these next two sentences, actually next 3 sentences, I kind of address both of these. What does it mean and why does it matter? So I talk about how one of the main reasons why the U.S. wants to improve their food in cafeterias is to decrease obesity and other health problems that are affecting the youth of America, and also to provide with the benefits of a healthy diet. So that leads to higher energy for students. They then are better able to focus and then perform at a higher level on their work. Those are all benefits of a healthy diet. But then I talk about how just because food is healthy doesn't mean that students are going to receive those benefits if they're not eating it. Because if it tastes bad and it's poor quality, even though it's supposedly healthier, they are not going to receive those benefits from it. So my closing sentence is a suggestion that perhaps a new approach to food and nutrition would be necessary to improve students' lives in relationship to the food that they're eating in cafeterias.